Hey guys, welcome in. I've got a fun video for you today of this absolute clown of a tank, the VK100.01P. For those of you who don't know, this is actually a pretty beastly tier 8 German super heavy tank. It's got very strong armor and a super beefy 128mm gun that is pretty derpy as far as gun handling goes, but you know, definitely packs a punch, especially in games like this where we're top tier and we're fighting against tier 6s. One of the first things you guys might have noticed is I've got kind of a toxic loadout here. I've got mostly high explosive and then a couple APCR. And honestly, I think the high explosive spam in this game is actually worse than the premium spam, because at least with the gold spam there's a chance that your armor can still block the shots, but with high explosive you're still damaging modules, causing at least some splash damage. There's basically no way to counteract it, and I do not see basically any drivers of this tank using high explosive with this gun, and I honestly don't understand it, because it has 630 damage and 65 pen, which is honestly insanely good for a tier 8, you know, especially when you realize that you're going up against tier 6s in some battles like this one. So we'll see how that serves us. And then of course, you know, I've got a handful of the APCR, which has 440 alpha and 260 pen. So yeah, this tank, obviously it's very slow and it's huge, but it makes up for that with great armor. It's 200 at the front hull, 230 on the front turret, and then 130 on the side, 120 on the rear for the hull, 160 and 140 on the sides and rear of the turret. Lower plate, the lower plate's decent. It's only like 135 straight on, but when you angle it, that goes up to about, you know, 220, 230, so lower tiers will have trouble with, you know, penetrating that. The side skirts add about so I think Tanks 2G counts it as two 40mm side plates between the side skirts and between the tracks, which obviously are very wide. So those are basically, you know, instant bounce for anyone trying to shoot you. In fact, it's actually impossible to damage this tank by shooting through the front drive wheel. You know, a lot of tanks you can damage the tank and track them by shooting through, you know, this part right here, but can't do that on this tank, which is really nice. So what are we going to do here on El Haluf? Usually I would like to try to take the hill on C2, because that gives you multiple angles to shoot. You can shoot the guys who are on B3, basically the opposite side of the hill, or you can shoot the guys trying to cross into the A1 corner. But given the fact that they have two arty, I've elected to just kind of take this corner, and we're just taking pot shots at the guys as they peek around, you know, the opposite corner there at A2. As I said, this gun's pretty derpy. It's got 0.37 accuracy and a 2.5 second aim time, and that's again why I think that it's just smarter to fire high explosive in this tank, because as you can see, I don't need to aim, I don't have to worry about my gun's accuracy. Basically, as soon as the gun's loaded, I'm going to pull the trigger, and I'm doing about 200 damage per shot against that Pantera, which, you know, isn't great for, you know, a gun this size, but I think that first shot took out like 3 of his modules, so definitely, basically, I'm just being a pain in the ass. The other thing that I think is really remarkable about this tank is it has great view range. Part of that is probably because of that big-ass commander's hatch, but, you know, with the proper equipment and crew skills, I think I have like 480 meters view range, which is fantastic for any tier 8 tank, let alone a heavy. So we're going to try to put that view range to use here, trying to catch that Challenger out in the open, because that would be an easy pen for this high explosive. We end up getting spotted, which I think tells me he's somewhere in those bushes, but we can't actually spy him out, and I figure, okay, I've wasted enough time here, let's get back to the battle. So we've got an enemy VKP above us, and I think he's going to be our next target, because he's concentrating on our friendly 45 TP to our left. So we're slowly going to make our way up the hill here. And in retrospect, I should have been loading my APCR as I'm going up this hill, because, you know, a tank as heavily armored as the VKP is not going to be heavily damaged by high explosive, even from a pretty big gun like this. So we're going to take a shot at just the bare sliver of his turret, only do about 100 damage. I guess that's better than nothing. But now I'm reloading with the APCR, and our friendly artillery shaves off a big chunk of his health, and that gives us an easy kill into the side. Now we're instantly gonna load the high explosive back into the tank, because we see that this 45 TP has his ass to us and he's not paying attention. So that's an easy kill right there, 180 damage. And now we're going to load the APCR again to take on this King Tiger. This guy got a shot into our lower plate earlier, so he seems to know what he's doing. He has 2 marks of excellence, but he's a tier 7 tank against this tier 8 tank, so not much of a fair fight. Nice high roll there, destroying his track, but he repairs, he bounces, and we claim the kill. Again, firing gold. Probably unnecessary, but I don't carry any standard rounds in this tank, because with all the high explosive, I might as well just take some APCR. If you can't beat him, join him. Really lucky shot there into the side of the T-29. I was stunned, so my gun accuracy was definitely off, but we were able to thread the needle. And now we are again going to sling some gold at this tier 6 tank destroyer. Going to shoot him in his commander's hatch, although really there's no need to aim when firing gold at this guy. His little pop gun, I think it's like a 17-pounder, really isn't doing much against us, and yeah, there we're just gonna pump a gold round just straight into his superstructure, so there's really nothing this guy can do. He's down to 100 health now. And I'm reloading the high explosive, because I think that the high explosive should be able to kill this guy in one shot. But that was, I guess, poorly aimed. It must have hit his gun or something. And so we only do 30 damage, which is really weird. But at this point, I remember I've actually got a ram kill mission going for the Chimera. And so I think, oh, I'm going to ram kill this guy. But then he tracks me, and here I get stunned, so I get even slower, and yeah, bump into him and nothing happens. So just going to finish him off with the high explosive. And Artie is still peppering us, as honestly they should, because just looking at the remaining 4 tanks, they're really the only 2 that can cause me any concern. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of a breather in the combat here. So what I always do during situations like this is I try to take stock of the battle. So it's tied right now, and we've got a tier 6 medium capping, and our KV-2 is falling back to our spawn to defend our Artie from their Type 64, who just popped up on the map. As I mentioned earlier, just looking at the enemy tanks that are still alive, I think that the artillery are the biggest threat to me. So as long as our friendly Stridsvon is going to keep capping, I'm going to go after the Artie and just eliminate them from the game. It's really important to make these kinds of decisions early when you're driving a slow tank like this, especially on a wide open map. Because once you've committed to something, you need to commit to it, because you won't have the speed to react and change your mind and get back to a different part of the battlefield. So even though our Artie just died, I'm not going to turn back, because I've already committed to going up to the A0 corner to look for their artillery. I decide to go back to the high explosive, just because I don't really need to waste an APCR shell against Artie. I should be able to pen with high explosive pretty damn easily against Artie. And I'm kind of worried that the SU-100 is going to pop up on our side and have an easy side shot at us, or at least spot us for the artillery. One thing also that I forgot to mention about the side armor, any shot on this lower part will never do damage, because that's just basically 80 millimeters of spaced armor, 2 separate plates between the side skirts and the tracks, and then it will just instantly be absorbed. So never shoot a VKP right there, always aim for this upper strip. But yeah, actually the SU-100 just got spotted. He drove into the opposite side of the cap in order to basically pause it. So that's not bad, because we know that he's just going to hunker down behind that hill, and we were able to spot him with only 300 health left. So that means that an APCR shell will guarantee one-shot kill him. So we peek over the top of this hill here. We don't see any arty. I'm gonna go a little bit further just to make absolutely certain that there's no arty up here. I've already come this far, so there's no sense in, you know, not being thorough. Now, their Lorraine just killed our Stridsfawn, and so that tells me that he's somewhere either around like F0 or G0, or he's all the way over in our spawn. And then shortly after Artie kills the Stridsfawn, the SU-100 takes out the KV-2. So we are now left in a 1 versus 4 against 2 Artie and 2 tier 6 tanks. So I'm gonna, you know, hustle back to the cap circle. I reloaded some APCR, not because I need it to pen the SU-100, but because I just want to make absolutely certain that I can do full damage to him in order to secure the kill. We have a general idea of where the arty is, but we don't know exactly where, so that's a little concerning. And as you can see in chat there, I'm calling on the World of Tanks gods, Circumflexus and Skill, to help me win this one. So yeah, honestly right now I'm not really afraid of any of these enemy tanks because we're a top tier super heavy tank and their real tanks are just tank destroyers. The biggest concern for me right now is the time left. There's only 4 minutes and I definitely don't have the speed to go chasing artillery all over the map. So honestly at this point the best I can hope for is either really stupid enemies or for a draw. So the SU-100 wasn't looking at us. That gave us the time to make sure that our shot was basically fully aimed before we take the kill, our 6th of the game. I paused for a second behind that mountain just because I know artillery is somewhere on my left and he's going to be aiming for me. He misses the shot, and so I'm going to move into the cap circle in an attempt to start the cap and maybe put some pressure on the enemies. Now the Type 64 gets spotted behind me, and I'm going to angle and wiggle as much as I can. Again, the rear armor on this tank is very thick, so I'm actually not worried about this Type 64 shooting me up the bum. What I am worried about is the artillery, so I'm just going to keep moving forward, get into arty cover. I reload a high explosive shell and somehow managed to hit him on the move. I mean, I saw only the barest sliver of his turret, and not only did it hit, but it penned and high rolled by about 20 damage, so if I was that Type 64, I would be raging after that, but nothing you can do about that. That was just dumb luck. And I'm gonna keep the high explosive loaded for these arty. In hindsight, I probably should have loaded APCR. I know it's overkill, but the APCR is a guaranteed pen and one-shot kill. And as we see, that high explosive shell did not pen the Hummel, but again, just dumb luck. It managed to set him on fire, so I secure my Radley Walters medal there and kill the Hummel through the fire. So that feels kind of dirty. Okay, so now it's a 1v1 with this Lorraine, and I see that we only have 2 minutes left in the game, and I need over 3 minutes to cap. So that's, you know, obviously I'm not going to win by capping. I'm not going to leave the cap to go chase him because as far as I know, he's still at like F0 or E0, and there's no way I'm going to make it up that hill in time. So instead, I'm going to perch myself on top of this hill, kind of in this bush, and again, with the great view range on this tank, I'm going to try to extend that over the valley and hope that he's going to just completely choke and come running after me in close quarters combat. This way, because again, I'm thinking he's up on that hill somewhere, I'll spot him before he can spot me coming down the hill. And yeah, I've got Erwin Rommel over here in the SU-152 telling me how things are gonna go. He thinks I need to go chase him, but that's not gonna happen. And yeah, he actually gets spotted to the northwest, which is a really weird play. So I'm gonna position my tank over just a little bit so I can get a better shot, and I'm instantly thinking this guy's gonna poke right underneath that archway. The SU-152 says it's gonna be a draw, and I say negative. I ping the map, and as soon as I ping it, boom, there that Lorraine is, exactly where I thought he was going to be, and I secure my 9th kill, win the game with less than a minute left, and yeah, that was a a pretty crazy match. Definitely probably the best one that I've had in the VKP. I definitely benefited from some really good RNG and some really stupid enemy tanks. So I finished with about 2,500 damage blocked, which isn't actually that high for a tank with this amount of armor, but in a tier 6 game where I'm top tier, you know, the enemy tanks don't have that much alpha damage, so a lower amount of damage blocked isn't surprising. I did get 4.6k damage, which is pretty high for a tier 6 game, but a lot of that was just benefiting from being the last tank left on my team. And basically no assistance damage, but that's not a big deal. The awards that I got were Radley Walters for 9 kills, Pastucci's medal for killing 2 enemy artillery, Cool-Headed, High Caliber, Top Gun, and Steel Wall. So yeah, pretty damn good result. I thought it was a pretty entertaining game, and yeah, I hope you guys were entertained by this, and hopefully this even gave you some tips about how to play your VKP. Again, I really think that high explosive is the way to go with this tank. Just with the bad gun handling and then the large caliber of the gun, that high explosive is surprisingly effective. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.